Malik Mahmud and the Enchanted Apple, a tale of giants, courage, and redemption. Once upon a time, there was a king. In his garden, there was an apple tree that would blossom on the first day, shed its flowers on the second day, and bear fruit on the third day. Whoever ate this apple would become a 15-year-old boy. The king would wake up early every morning at dawn and go to the garden to pick the apple, but every time, he found that the apple had already been picked. Disappointed, he would return home. This went on for several days until the king became fed up and called his eldest son. The son came before his father and respectfully said, "Father, what can I do for you?" The king replied, "How can this be? I'm the king, yet I'm deprived of the apple in my own garden. You must catch the thief who steals the apple so they can be punished." The son kissed his father's hand, dressed in his warrior attire, took his bow and arrow, and went to the garden. He waited for 1 hour, then 2, but as soon as the apple ripened, he fell asleep. When he awoke, the apple was gone. The king's eldest son returned home disappointed. The next day, the king called his middle son and said, "How can this be? I'm the king, yet I'm deprived of the apple in my own garden. You must catch the thief who steals the apple so they can be punished." The middle son also kissed his father's hand, dressed in his warrior attire, took his bow and arrow, and went to the garden. He waited for 1 hour, then 2, but as soon as the apple ripened, he too fell asleep. When he awoke, the apple was gone. Disappointed, he returned home. When the king's youngest son, Malik Mahmud, heard about this, he went to his father and respectfully said, "Father, let me guard the apple tree this time." His father replied, "Your elder brothers said the same thing, but they couldn't catch the thief and returned disappointed. What can you do?" But Malik Mahmud insisted until his father reluctantly agreed. Malik Mahmud, cheerful and confident, went to his room, dressed in his warrior attire, took his bow and arrow, and went to the garden. He waited for 1 hour, then 2, but soon felt sleepy. He took out his dagger, cut his finger, and sprinkled salt on the wound to stay awake. The pain kept him alert throughout the night. Just before dawn, he heard a great noise and hid behind the tree to see what it was. He saw a giant approaching, as tall as a minaret and terrifying to behold, like a mountain coming to life. Malik Mahmud bit his finger and thought, "Aha, this must be the one stealing the apple." When the giant approached the tree, Malik Mahmud struck it on the head with his sword, splitting it in two. The giant roared in pain and fled. At dawn, Malik Mahmud gathered the apples, placed them in a tray, covered them with a cloth, and brought them to his father. The king was overjoyed to see the apples. Malik Mahmud said, "Father, we follow the blood trail and finish off the giant." The king agreed and gave Malik Mahmud some troops, along with his other sons, to assist him. They followed the blood trail and came upon a well. They knew the giant had gone down into it. The well was covered with a millstone. The king's sons tried to lift the stone. The eldest son tried first, but couldn't move it. The middle son tried next, but he also failed. Finally, Malik Mahmud stepped forward, grabbed the stone, and with one mighty effort, lifted it and threw it aside. Now, someone needed to go down the well after the giant. The eldest son volunteered, and they tied a rope around his waist and began to lower him down. After descending a short distance, he shouted, "I'm burning. Pull me up." They pulled him out, and the middle son took his place. But the same thing happened. Finally, it was Malik Mahmud's turn. He said, "Lower me down, but no matter how much I shout, do not pull me up." They began to lower Malik Mahmud down the well, and like his brothers, he too began to shout, "I'm burning. Pull me up." But they ignored his cries and continued lowering him until the heat began to diminish. When he reached the bottom, he untied the rope and began to explore the well. Malik Mahmud walked down a passage and found a room. Inside the room was a door, and beyond that door another room. This continued until he reached the 7th room, where he saw a beautiful maiden sitting on a throne with a giant's head resting on her lap. The maiden, seeing Malik Mahmud, said, "Oh, young man, Who are you? Leave quickly. The giant is injured and angry. If he wakes up and sees you, he'll kill you in an instant. Malik Mamud replied, I've come to kill this giant. He drew his dagger and began to stab the giant in the leg. The giant stirred and said to the maiden, Don't let the flies bite my leg. Malik Mamud paused, then continued. The giant stirred again and said, Don't let the flies bite my leg. When Malik Mamud stabbed the giant a third time, the giant woke up, slapped the maiden, and said, Didn't I tell you not to let the flies bite my leg? At that moment, Malik Mamud jumped up like a lion and grappled with the giant. They wrestled for 40 days and nights, but neither could defeat the other. Finally, both were exhausted. The giant said, Whoever you are, give me a little time to rest, and then we'll continue. Malik Mamud agreed. The giant laid his head on the maiden's lap and fell asleep again. When they resumed fighting, they wrestled for another 7 days and nights. Finally, the maiden whispered to Malik Mamud, In that cupboard, there's a bottle. The giant's life is in that bottle. If you don't break it, you'll never defeat him. Malik Mamud quickly grabbed the bottle and smashed it on the ground. A bird flew out of the bottle, but Malik Mamud caught it immediately. The giant, seeing this, began to plead, Don't harm the bird. I'll give you anything you want. Just don't kill it. That bird is my life. But Malik Mamud replied, This is exactly what I've been looking for. He then broke the bird's neck, and the giant fell dead with a thunderous crash. After killing the giant, Malik Mamud rested his head on the maiden's lap and slept peacefully. When he awoke, he moved on to the next room. When the king's youngest son, Malik Mamud, heard about this, he went to his father and respectfully said, Father, let me guard the apple tree this time. His father replied, Your elder brothers said the same thing, but they couldn't catch the thief and returned disappointed. What can you do? There, he found another maiden, even more beautiful than the first, with a giant's head resting on her lap. When she saw Malik Mamud, she warned him, Oh, young man, you should leave now. The giant will wake up and tear you apart. Malik Mamud smiled and said, Don't worry, I'll take care of this giant too. He drew his sword and began stabbing the giant's leg. As before, the giant woke up and complained about the flies. Malik Mamud fought the giant for 40 days and nights, but neither could overcome the other. Finally, the maiden told Malik Mamud about the bottle with the giant's life in it. He smashed the bottle, caught the bird, and broke its neck, causing the giant to die. After defeating the second giant, Malik Mamud moved on to the third room, where he found a maiden so beautiful that she took his breath away. Malik Mamud fell in love with her at first sight, and she felt the same way about him. But before they could speak, a terrifying noise echoed through the room, and a giant entered. This time, Malik Mamud fought the giant for 40 days and nights. When the maiden told him about the bottle, Malik Mamud broke it, killed the bird inside, and the giant fell dead. After all 3 giants were defeated, Malik Mamud gathered the maidens and all the treasure he could carry and returned to the bottom of the well. First, he tied the rope around the eldest maiden's waist, and his brothers pulled her up. Then he did the same with the middle maiden. When it was the youngest maiden's turn, she said, Let them pull you up first. I'm afraid your brothers might get jealous of me and cut the rope, leaving you in the well. But Malik Mamud refused, so the maiden warned him, If you won't go up first, then remember what I say, they'll cut the rope, and you'll fall back into the well. When you do, 2 rams will come to fight, one white and one black. The white ram will chase the black one, and that's when you should jump onto the white ram's back. If you do, you'll return to the bright world. If you jump onto the black ram, you'll end up in the dark world. After tying the rope around the youngest maiden, Malik Mamud's brothers pulled her up. But when they saw how beautiful she was, their jealousy got the better of them, and halfway up, they cut the rope. Malik Mamud fell back into the well with a splash. Sitting at the bottom of the well, Malik Mamud felt hopeless. Then, just as the maiden had said, two rams appeared, fighting each other. Malik Mamad tried to jump onto the white ram's back, but it threw him off. He fell onto the black ram's back instead, and the ram took him deeper into the well, into the dark world. Now, Malik Mamad was lost in the dark world, with no way to return home. He wandered for days, searching for a way out, until he met an old woman. She said, "Young man, you look lost. What are you doing in the dark world?" Malik Mamad told her everything that had happened. The old woman took pity on him and said, "If you want to return to the bright world, you'll need to find the Zumrad bird. It can take you back." She then gave him a golden feather and said, "When you see the Zumrad bird, wave this feather, and the bird will come to you." Malik Mamad thanked the old woman and set off to find the Zumrad bird. After many days of searching, he finally saw the bird perched on a high cliff. He waved the golden feather, and the Zumrad bird flew down to him. The bird asked, "Who are you, and what do you want from me?" Malik Mamad replied, "I'm Malik Mamad, and I've been trapped in the dark world. I need your help to return to the bright world." The Zumrad bird agreed to help him. It took Malik Mamad on its back and flew up, out of the well, and into the bright world. Malik Mamad thanked the bird and returned home, where he confronted his brothers about their betrayal. The king, hearing what had happened, was furious with Malik Mamad's brothers and ordered them to be punished. But Malik Mamad, being kind-hearted, forgave them. He married the youngest maiden, and they lived happily ever after. The end.